Hi, this is Greg Sage. Around the time I was starting Select Aquatics, I bought about $100 worth of food from someone on the internet, a well-known online retailer, and received the food in a appropriate amount of time. And when I received it, it was like concrete. It had been stored improperly and was hard as a rock. And I gave it to some friends who had some big cichlids, and they said they even wouldn't touch it. So anyway, I emailed the company and figured it's okay, see how they handle this. This is, while I still had it and first found that it was damaged, and didn't get a response. A couple days passed, wrote them again, a few days passed, decided, well, I'll call them. So I called them, left a message. A couple days passed, then I get an email back saying that we understand you received an order that was damaged or was not to your satisfaction, and we'll go ahead and we'll replace it. Please contact us. Well, anyway, to make a long story short, I spent 2 months of emailing, phone calling a couple times a week, and with promises from them, although they never apologized, that either I would be refunded the money or sent out another order. So I'm still waiting for that order, and that was about 7 years ago. I'm not going to mention who that was because I wouldn't want to be held to a problem I may have had myself 7 years ago. I don't know. But the point being that I said to myself, you got to be kidding me. So if you see something that you like that's listed as available at the selectaquatics.com website homepage, just go ahead and email me and I'll get back to you within 24 hours. If you'd like to go ahead and order it, please send me your zip code and how many you would like, and I'll go ahead and send you back a quote. And in that quote, I'll go ahead and set up a shipping date and let you know when it's going to be shipped and what it's going to cost and what everything is going to run. And I'll go into in a moment how I estimate shipping and such. So I follow your order from the time that we place it together until the time it arrives to you. So, and I'd like to hear from you after it arrives, that they arrive safely, etc., because I'm always working on the shipping and improving my shipping. So this way, this is how I've always done it. Select Aquatics is now beginning its 8th year. There's been a couple thousand boxes of fish that have been shipped out, and this is how I've been doing it the entire time. And this way, hopefully there's no mistakes, no errors. So here's some more information on what goes on when I get that quote written up for you. Welcome to the office here at Select Aquatics. There's the order board. And here's where all the work gets done. So let's say you live in Chicago and you decide you want to buy 2 pair of Doodroi, the Xenotoka Doodroi. So just go ahead and write me at selectaquatics@gmail.com. Dear Greg, I'd like to buy 2 pair of the Xenotoka Doodroi. My zip code is 60611. And please let me know if they're available and what it would cost for shipping. Thank you very much, Brad. So then I'll write back, dear Brad, thank you for checking out Select Aquatics. What I'm thinking when I write this now is now I have a quote, and my quote is pretty much pre-printed out. It's done in portions on a form. And I'm thinking, okay, 2 pair, that's going to be 4 fish, plus I'll send 1 extra, so that's 5 fish. I'm thinking of the bag and about what they'll weigh, and I'm thinking about other boxes that have gone to the Chicago area of about that size. So I know that USPS overnight to ship a 2 pair to you is going to run about $55. So I'll go ahead and I'll write up the quote. And the reason I ask for the zip code, people ask why do you need the zip code? I mean, for instance, with the Plecos, where it's a one-price shipping, I still ask for the zip code. And people say, well, why do you need it if we know what it's going to cost? Well, when I get your zip code, I look up every zip code for the weather and the temperatures to help me pick a day. Also, when I'm picking a day for what's coming up, usually I try to get orders out within 2 to 3 days. The fish have to be fasted for 24 hours before they're shipped. So, for instance, if you order from me on a Monday, the soonest I would be able to get them out would be Wednesday, because I'll fast them on Tuesday and then ship them out on Wednesday. And I ship Monday through Thursday. So so Brad, you'll go ahead then, and in that quote, it says, how to do PayPal. I also take money orders and checks, and of course we'll wait till they clear before we I'll send the fish out to you. I'll email you as soon as I receive them, and then I'll let you know that I've got it, and we set up a shipping day at that point. So I look at that shipping board and decide and pick a day. So the order board tells me how many boxes I have going out on any particular day and what's in every box. I have found a few years back that I can handle so many boxes a day and so many fish and still get everything else done. So I leave myself open from Mondays through Thursdays, filling each day up as I know that I can get accomplished in a standard workday and get the box off to the post office in time. So there are times when I'm really busy that there's been twice in 7 years that it was almost 3 weeks before I could get a box out to you because I was so slammed. But usually I can get a box out to you within a week, week and a half at the most. Right now, today, if you were to write me with an order, it would be about 4 days before I'd be able to ship out to you. Today is Sunday. I'm booked. I could get something out to you on Thursday. And then the next order that would come in would go out on Monday for the following week. For those of you who run commercial operations, for instance, you have a pet shop or a larger facility, and you'd like to order larger quantities of fish, generally as a rule, I'm not your guy. I don't ship airport to airport. I don't do enough of that business year to year. When I first started off, I used to ship 30 to 50 fish to various stores and things, but I would work with the store owner to try to come up so that it was worth both of our whiles to do this. And when you have to pay shipping and such, it becomes very difficult to do that. It also makes for, a tough box to put together because I individually bag all of the bags. So individually bag all of the fish. So as it comes out over time, I really am not any longer shipping out larger quantities at wholesale prices to vendors. So if you're looking for more than say 20 or 30 fish, and even at that, I won't have that available on many of the species here. Just write me, and I'll let you know what's available and what I can do for you. But yeah, I'm not a commercial operation in that sense, and I don't see that happening anytime real soon. So during my first year of Select Aquatics, I had overestimated somebody's shipping, and got the amount that it was, and I realized that I had overcharged the customer by about $7 or $8. So I went home, wrote a check, sent him a check, didn't think anything about it, and I get an email back from the customer later, all excited, and said, "No one does that." Said, I didn't expect to get that overage back from you. Some people just keep that. And I'm so glad that you don't, and I'll continue to buy from you. And so that got me thinking. So from that point on, I now have a policy where if I have overestimated your shipping cost when I send it to you in the quote, because I won't know what the actual shipping cost is until the box is put together and taken to the post office and they weigh it and tell me how much it's going to cost. So if I overestimate by more than $6, I mail you back a check so that for the entire difference, so that way you'll never overpay for shipping. And today I probably send out a check about every 6 weeks, so no one's more surprised than I sometimes how lucky I am that that I'm as close to the rates as I am. But I've just been doing this for a long time now, because each of the fish have different weights at different age groups, and then of course you have all the different zones around the country. So it just took a while to get that learned, but that's what goes into shipping. Lastly, I ship when temperatures are between 35 degrees and 90 degrees. With cooler water godiads, I'd like to see people take advantage of hold for pickup when temperatures start getting into the high 80s. But as a rule, things will survive well. When temperatures start getting very cold, I do use heat packs throughout the winter time, but I don't use ice packs. I found them, not only do they add a lot of weight to the box, but they're hard to control. You end up with a couple fish nearby that are frozen and the fish a little further out that don't do so well. So I don't use ice packs, but I do use heat packs throughout the year when they're necessary. So if it turns out that when you want to ship or when a good day comes up, the temperatures are too cold or too warm, then I keep your zip code, and every Saturday I check your zip code with anyone else in that situation and let them know if there's a day that upcoming week available to ship. And if there is, I go ahead and I email you and I say we're up, we could ship this possibly this Tuesday or whatever it is, and then we get it together. So I do that every year. I do it pretty much every spring and fall. There are times when sometimes it's too cold to ship here, and where it's going is too warm. I can't put a heat pack in, but those days are rare. And generally from this part of the country, I can ship almost year round. I really don't like to ship below 35 degrees. I'll go down to 30 if I have to, but it's just because the fish don't do well. So, and we all want them to arrive as healthy as possible. So anyway, that's the temperature stuff. Okay, so I get asked to go speak at a club back in the Midwest. So I go and I do this. And like happens in many clubs, the people get together and after the talk and say, we want to put together an order and have us all go in together and have you ship us a bunch of fish after you get home. So I said, great, that'd be fine, So went ahead and pulled this all together, and I get an email of everybody's list of what everybody wants, and I put the box together and I send them back a quote and I tell them what the shipping is, and everything's all like I normally would for any other order. So the guy who's putting this together is the club president or one of the top people in the club, and so he looks at the order and looks at my shipping estimate and in the email, and he emails me back and says, well, how do you know that that's what it's going to cost to ship? And I said, well, because I know that that's what's going to cost to ship. That's just what it is. And so then he calls me and he's like, I want to know more about how you decided that this figure is what it's going to cost to ship. And I says, well, it's a similar size box. I happened to ship something out very much like that almost a year ago, and yada, yada, yada. This is what it cost, and this is how I estimated what your box is going to cost. And he said, well, what's the box going to weigh? I said, I have no idea. And there's this pause. He goes, you didn't weigh the box? I said, well, the box isn't put together yet. There's no fish in bags yet. And he says, well, how do you figure the shipping cost? And that's why, again, I figure the shipping cost based on what I know it's going to cost, based on other orders that have gone to your area. And he goes, you don't even know what a heat pack weighs, do you? And I said, no, I really don't know what a heat pack weighs. So he hung up. So I get an email, and it says, I will never deal with anyone that does anything so shoddy and so yada, yada, yada. So I said, fine, do what you want to do. Well, what ended up happening was that everybody else in the club that had an order with this guy, they all contacted me individually, and I all sent everybody's order out to them. So they all got their fish. He was the only one that didn't get the fish. But yeah, that's kind of how I figure shipping. I've gone to the post office, I've gotten the manuals, I've sat down with them, but oftentimes they didn't know how to make sense of the mini zones into the micro zones as part of, to try to determine a postal cost. And anyway, so that's how I figure shipping. Okay, Heverly writes, do you ship maybe held up Mongolian? And that's all she wrote in the email. And it kind of is typical of a lot of emails I get as to do I ship internationally. For those of you who knew me or have known about Select Aquatics for a while, I'm starting my 8th year now, and I did ship internationally for about the first 2 years, and I shipped routinely to Canada and to Malaysia and to Singapore primarily. I spent, I remember, about 2 weeks on the phones with people in Canada trying to find out what their regulations were, what they required. They couldn't get through their heads the concept that I was shipping live fish. It was so funny because I would talk to everybody, they'd be very nice, and they'd say, great, I'm going to transfer you, and then they would transfer me to the same guy at the agriculture department who deals with shipping and packing of say, frozen salmon. And so eventually I did get it settled out. And so I did ship to Canada for quite a while, and my local post office had told me at the time that the U.S. didn't care what we shipped out, but the problem was on stuff coming in. Turns out they weren't true. They didn't know, and so I had shipped a box of fish to Singapore, and it had gone through Anchorage, Alaska, where it was intercepted by customs. And so I ended up getting an email from U.S. Customs / U.S. Postal Service / Fish and Wildlife. It's telling me that I had been in violation of a number of laws, including CITES, which I knew couldn't be the case, and then I had to call somebody. So I called, and so I talked to a woman with U.S. Customs, and the rules have been changed, and they're really kind of clamping down, and now I'm in their database. Make a long story short, I basically got my wrist slapped and told that that I'm in the database, and if I try shipping again, that I could lose my business license, and it was heavy fines and everything else. Now, to do it legally, I would have to get a license, an export license. The process costs about $300 to $400, I understand. And they come here, they inspect the property, and they inspect the facility, and they make sure that I'm doing what I say I'm going to do. So let's say you want to buy a fry group of Xiphophorus mayi. Actually, I've got a guy who wrote me recently from Turkey, was desperate for a fry group of mayi. So we'll do a fry group of mayi, a 6, we'll say 8, because I always send 8 usually. So 8 small bags in a box to go to Turkey. And this is assuming I've gotten my export license, or we're all fine and dandy. So you've got the $35 for the mayi. Then if you want to ship express mail, which is internationally, it's 3 to 5 days, it's not overnight, but oftentimes you're going to have an inspection period where they're going to pull the box and open it and inspect it and check the paperwork that I send before you get it, which can sometimes add, I've had it add as long as a week when I was shipping international, but it usually lasts just a day or 2 days. So, if you want to do that, you can do that. But let's say we're going to be shipping this box to Canada. So we're going to ship this box, which weighs about 3 pounds, 2.5 pounds, 3 pounds, to Canada. So we'll say we'll do it express mail, and that's going to cost us about it's probably going to cost us about $100. So okay, we say $100 on that. Now you can go Global Express, and Global Express. It won't be maybe $100. Maybe we'll say $70. Global Express, I believe, used to be about $100. That's overnight, and that costs a little bit more. So for right now, for our purposes, we'll say that the $35 for the fish and the shipping overnight express, or the express mail, is going to be $100 by itself. So then on top of that, there's a $93 agricultural fee, because it's an agricultural product, at least according to the U.S. government. So then that, on top of that, this is per box now, is another $93 fee because it's live fish. Now I've been told that these figures were given to me 4 years ago. These figures were given to me 4 years ago, and I've been told they've since been raised. So I don't know by how much. But anyway, so we have two $93 figures. So before we can actually ship it, though, we have to have it inspected by a government certified vet. Here in Denver, to have that done, it's $150. So the certificate that he prints out and fills out has to be included with each box. So now you've got 93, 93, and 150, plus $100 for the fish. And anyway, so that's what it takes to get a box out to you. So we're ending up spending about $400 to get a single group of 2.5 pounds of fish out to you. So and plus I have to go through the problems. Oh, and besides the $400 to get the process done, then it's $100 maintenance fee. And as for what I do, it's not worth it to me to go ahead and go through that process so I can ship internationally a couple of times a year. So anyway, that's why I don't ship internationally any longer. And from what I understand and from what I was told, you can't, do the old ceramic cups thing like they used to do in the past. You mark ceramic cups on the customs invoice because they weigh about the same as a bag of fish. And because they look now, they have x-rays. So anyway, for those of you who are outside of the U.S., if you can get a friend in the U.S., then like if you're in Canada and you want to come across the border, set up a P.O. box, or you have a friend pick it up or a pet shop pick it up. I do have customers that way. And I do have somebody who is in Europe right now, and we're working out a situation where we're going to get a number of fish to her, and she's going to get them out to to Germany and the UK is my understanding. And there's also a gentleman in Alberta, Canada, that's looking to set up a parallel Select Aquatics. He'll come down across the border, pick up the fish, and he's got a facility he's setting up, and he may sell them then from Canada. But both of those situations are probably 2-3 years off before I'll be able to refer them. So, but I'm working on it. So anyway, next question. Okay, Robert writes, I want to order 6 of the Zoogeneticus tequilas, but I understand that pairs will ship better, so I think I'll go with 2 pairs instead. Fortunately, after 7 years of doing this and a couple thousand boxes being shipped, I've had a number of boxes that have been lost or were sent to wrong addresses because I was given the wrong address or whatever, and then they would come back to me, or they would arrive to the customer a week, 2 weeks later, or whatever. The record is a box that got sent to someone back in New York, who for some reason gave me an address of a place he was moving out of, and the box was sent back to me, and I opened it. I was here with a friend, and he said, should I open the box? And I'm like, I wouldn't. He goes, no, man, I want to find out if there's still anything in it. So we opened the box up, and there was 10 fish in there that had been shipped. There was 4 plecos that were about 2 inches, the 2-inch size, and the rest was a group of Odessa barbs, the young baby Odessa barbs. Surprisingly, 8 of the 10 fish in that box were still alive. And so my friend, I went ahead and gave them to him. He took them and nursed them up and fattened them up. The plecos are pretty thin. I don't know how well they did, but the Odessas, I understand, survived. When a fish is about a month and a half to 2 months old, that's pretty much when they're at their hardiest. And when you ship them, you have the greatest difference between body mass and the amount of water they're going to go into, where you result in the lowest shipping cost. As the fish get bigger, they're going to, of course, use up more resources. You're going to use more water, it costs more to ship, and I found that older fish just aren't as resilient as the young fish are. So anyway, to take a better look at this, we'll go down to the fish room, and we'll take a look at some of the fish that get shipped from here and what are best to ship and what aren't. This right here is probably the ideal size to ship. These are Zophophorus montezuma. They're big enough that they'll each get their own little breather bag, but they are small enough that they will survive the trip pretty well. If there's a delay of a day or 2, they should handle it okay. And when they get to you, they're still young enough that they can acclimate to your water as easily as they are going to. And then you can go ahead and feed them and take care of them in your own environment to get them as big and as healthy and colorful as you choose to do. That's probably the way that I prefer that people buy these fish, because then that way they get the most out of them, and the adults they receive were as a result of their effort. But granted, with a fish like this, you're going to wait at least 3-4 months before you're going to start seeing the swords develop on the males, and it'll take a little while for them to actually start producing fry. Now these are the young Odessa barbs. This is a perfect size to ship them. They're just now getting too big to put 2 in a bag, so they'll be getting shipped at one in a bag. They're now about 2 months old, and they will last quite a while. When in shipping, they handle shipping quite well. They have a wide temperature tolerance, so they do well when they're shipped, as opposed to some fish that if there's going to be unexpected circumstances, won't do as well. The Odessa barb are not one of them. But this is a great size for them to ship, and right now these guys are about 3 months from starting to color up, and for the males to start showing, who will have the red stripe and who will not. Swordtails can be tricky because we all want to get fish with the swords on them and all the color built out, like that male in there. But if you were to buy 2 pairs, say, of adult fish like that, with the amount of water that each require, because each is going to require about a cup and a half of water at least, you're going to end up getting into the $60 and $70 shipping range for two pair of fish. The days of shipping fish, 2 pair for $45 are pretty much gone. So what I try to do, like these fish that you see in here, I would not sell as a group of 6 unsexed, even though most of the fish in this tank are younger and they are unsexed. But I would wait till these fish grow out just a little bit longer to where I can begin to see who the males are going to be. In some of these already you can see who the females are going to be because there are gravid spots appearing. And then when you receive 2 pair, you'll get 2 pair that the males won't have their swords, but they'll be fur males, and they'll be about this size, and that way they can still get to you affordably. So what you'll get is, say, 2 females and 2 young males in here, where the male may not be sorted, if you order young pairs. But it's also why you see me offer young pairs at the website very rarely, and generally I prefer to sell a lot of these fish as younger 2 to 4 month old unsexed fish. Now these guys are being grown out to develop some good pairs that will be separated out and bred to start to build back some of the red striping and such that used to be really common in this line. I don't see it as consistently as I used to, so I am growing this batch and another batch out that are breeding currently to get the Alvarezi numbers back up so that I can start offering again consistent fish. Now I often get asked if I can ship somebody, say, 2 pair of Villifera. Now the Villifera here breed fairly female heavy. These are both younger males. There's one that's a little older than the other, but they're both still just coming into their full dorsal. Ideally that's probably the size you'd want to ship them at. But those would take a ton of water because they're 3 to 4 inches long. You're probably talking 3, 4, 5 cups of water at least to ship these guys safely from one place to another. So, you know, you're talking about getting into close to $100 to ship 2 pair of these fish. So the way that I choose to ship the Villifera is as younger fish that are shipped. They can be shipped in groups of 6, and I'll show you here in a moment what the ideal size is for these guys. Then when you get them, you can go ahead and feed them frequently, provide them with the best filtration, and get them to this size on your own, and they will grow quite quickly when you get them home after they are shipped at the size I'm about to show you. And then these are the older grow out Villifera that gets sent out when you order. When you order 6, you'll get 6 of the smaller sized Villifera that are in this shot and come out of this tank. And they do really well shipping, and they're a great hardy fish that can go a few days in a breather bag without any problems. The Limia nigrofasciata, however, as well as the Limia tigers, you can ship them all day long at the smaller size. These are all too big to ship. For some reason, these guys do not ship well as adults. I don't know why, but when there's losses, they will often occur with these guys. These big males just don't last long in shipping. But and the females here as well, some will make it, but you'll end up with losses. Whereas the ideal size to ship these guys is at about half this size, and then they ship really well. But this is one fish where I generally try to discourage ordering pairs or young adults. Now with the young green dragons, their issue is that they have spines, so they can't be shipped in breather bags. They have to be shipped in double bagged plastic bags. And I will usually ship them 2 to 3 to a bag, and they do well. They get fasted for 24 hours before they're shipped, and they also are generally quite hardy in shipping, and they make it to their destinations with very few losses. Thank you for watching this video on ordering from Select Aquatics and a little bit about the history of Select Aquatics. I hope you enjoyed it. The next video is coming out in 2 weeks, and it's going to be on the Xenotoka Lion's Eye, which was just recently given that scientific name after a friend of mine, John Lyons, who also is the person that is running the North American Goodyear Working Group, which is something we'll discuss in that next video. So I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Thank you.